entrepreneurs, and this is just what life dishes out to us, and we have to learn how to adapt. And that's really what the purpose of the talk is how to adapt. Early exit planning will benefit you. It'll make it smoother, and you'll end up with more money in your retirement account. The first thing is you need to have written plans. We've all heard about the 1979 Harvard study that showed that people who had simply written down what their goals were when they were graduating did enormously better than the people who didn't write their goals down when they were graduating. Growing ventures need a succession of leaders. I don't care how many business skills you have, you can't be the quintessential entrepreneur who can have a great idea, see an opportunity, raise the resources and the capital, pull the people together, launch the venture, have it grow and succeed. That's the quintessential entrepreneur. That's wonderful. That's amazing. You've got to be a genius to be able to do that. That's like 1 out of 100 people, 1 out of 20 people. Next, you need the series of administrators, though, and if the entrepreneur stays too long, the entrepreneur will stunt the growth of that business. There has to also be room at the top, because if you're going to have a successful business, you're going to have to hire staff. You're going to have to become a leader. You're going to have to train them. You're going to have the capital to incentivize them and the opportunity for them to rise in responsibility. There's got to be room at the top. So guess what? You've got to get ready to move out for there to be room. To have a vision and a mission, and to optimize, you've got to have vision. You've got to be able to see and have imagination. Now, there's a lot of different definitions different theorists have about what is the difference between the vision and the mission. For me, what I find works best is a vision is a powerful, powerful idea that you cannot possibly accomplish in one lifetime. For example, if you're a contractor, you want to end homelessness. If you are a restaurateur, you want to end food starvation. You know, you want to do something that you can't do in one lifetime. That's what a vision is, I say. A mission is something that is a huge goal, but it can be accomplished in, say, 10 years. So you start with that vision, and then you convert it into a practical mission. You have to have values that are rock solid, and they have to be genuine, because everyone who's close to you can see them, particularly your staff. And they'll talk about it. They do talk about it. And you have to know what your purpose is. Why are you going through all this work to succeed in a business of your own? So Richard Rummel wrote Good Strategy, Bad Strategy, the Difference and Why It Makes a Difference. What the difference that it makes. He talks about the strategic kernel. And in it, he talks about the first part is the diagnosis. There's a number of people in the medical field here, and everyone begins with a diagnosis. I like to think positively, and a diagnosis can be positive. You're not sick. That's a diagnosis. You're healthy. Wonderful. But you begin with a diagnosis of the current situation that a business is facing. And that is the most important place to start, is to look at your current circumstance, look at your history, look at your opportunity, and say, what is the quintessential description that in one sentence or two sentences describes exactly where you are and this business is and what it needs next. That's the diagnosis. The next piece is the guiding principle. That's like the doctor saying, look, does x-rays, does the examination, and says, broken arm, or strained ligaments. what's the guiding principle here? The third piece is the coherent actions. He writes a prescription, or she writes a prescription. She gives you the prescription. She gives you instructions. You go to the drugstore. They give you the drug. They give you instructions. That's the coherent actions. If you miss any one of these three, you have bad strategy. It's not really strategy at all. This is what it takes to have effective strategy. Now let's talk about the market value. You have to know what the market value of your business is. Market value is a very complex subject. On the very simplest level, you make a list, and I help all my clients do this. We make an asset list, and we itemize everything in their business. Now in a restaurant we say, silverware, plates, we generalize. But on the large pieces, the blenders, the appliances, we put the brand, we put the model, we put the year it was bought, we put how much it was paid for. And then we look at what the liquidation value would be, or what the replacement value would be, and out of those numbers of the original cost, the current liquidation value, and the replacement value, we come up with the genuine asset value. Now, in the simplest of terms, that is the value of your business. But everyone knows that if you have a warehouse full of all your restaurant stuff, that it's one thing for it to be all disconnected in a gymnasium ready to be sold, and it's another thing to be functioning in an operational restaurant, ready to flip on the lights, turn on the gas, and go to work. But on the simplest level, that's the basic, is asset value. Now there's also intangibles. You have a lot of intangibles. Your phone number is one of your most valuable intangibles. Your website address, your email addresses, your cell phone number if you do business with it. These are all intangible. Your client list, your vendor list. They can be prepared and organized to have a genuine value. But you have to have a simple way that you can routinely take the temperature of your business and check what the market value is. So you want to know what is your firm's market value now, and then you have to anticipate what will it be in a year from now. What will it be when you transfer the business and when you receive your last payment. Here are 12 secrets to selling your business. No. Not. The first is that you can't do this alone. You have multiple teams. You have the team of your employees and your managers, and you have your personal support team of your partner and your brother and your brother-in-law who you talk with, and then you have the team of professionals you have to do a successful exit. You have to have a qualified attorney, you have to have a qualified accountant and tax preparer, you need a financial planner, you need an insurance agent to cover the risk and have key person insurance and employee dishonesty coverage. You need to hire an increasingly diverse staff of people, which is counterintuitive. We don't like to hire diverse people. They make us uncomfortable. We can't understand what they're saying. They say things to us we can't comprehend. What do you think I should do? What are you, crazy? Get out of here. No, we have to have diversity, increasingly more diverse. Why? Because to adapt to the kind of environment that we've got going on, we've got to be able to change and morph. We have to have practice establishing. You have to, over and over, what is my value now, this month, this quarter, next quarter? What's going to be? You have to get in the habit of establishing what is the value. Not just looking at your P&L and your balance sheet, but what is the value of your business? Commit yourself to a self-improvement regime. Study the attributes of the adult in the aging brain. The frontal cortex is the most important part. So what if we can't find our keys? It doesn't matter as long as our planning ability increases. Do written strategic and tactical planning on an ongoing, methodical basis. Shop to purchase a firm just like yours. Go shopping. How do you learn how to sell your business? You learn how to sell it by shopping to buy one. Identify a new leader. Look at your staff, look inside your company, look outside your company, identify a new leader with potential. Once you've identified, then you need to perhaps reposition your firm to fit that new leader. Is that new leader a family member? Are they an employee? Are they an outsider? You organize your business differently for each of those scenarios. You create the legal agreement in principle just to get started. You have a loose framework to begin the process, to go through the process with a person so that both of you are protected. Fundamentally, you're protected. Nurture your staff so that they can be operating the business without you more and more, because you don't have time to run the business anymore if you're going to organize it and prepare it, find a new leader, mentor the new leader, and then gradually step away. Somebody's got to be running the business every day. Refine your management metrics. Look at your dashboard and your scorecards that you're able to watch a few numbers every day, once a week, and know what to drill down to get further information. And then get the hell out. Plan your exit. So it's crucial to make your plan now, because it takes years. This is not something you can do in a weekend. You can start it in a weekend. This is something that typically takes a couple of years. You need to probably change your income tax returns from how you've been submitting your income tax returns. Succession is complex. It involves a lot of moving parts, a lot of personalities. You're going to go through emotional changes. It's hard to go from being the entrepreneur, the one in the spotlight, to congratulating the new leader, stepping away and mentoring him or her to be in the spotlight, and to coach from behind and gradually step away from that baby that you've created or been taking care of for the last 10 to 30 years. You must optimize to succeed, because you're going to need a lot of money. You're going to have to pay that new person as much as you're making, maybe more, for him or her to come in, run your business, and send you a check for the next 10 years, a big one. You got to pay that person very well. A practice expert helps. It's a twisty, turny road. Start today. So, what we're going to do now is this is a strategic plan, outline, 6 pages. We're going to spend a couple minutes on each page. Get your pens out, pens or pencils. We're going to spend about 3 minutes on each page. Write a couple words under each category. Don't do the executive summary, that goes last. Above the word strategic plan, write the name of your business or your name. What's the background and history? Put in the year. What year did you start? Whatever. You pick the year, you pick, give me the year in the city. Doesn't matter, just anything. Then what's the current circumstance? Do you have staff? Do you have an office? Do you have a few clients or a lot of clients? Just a couple words for each one, because we're going to just go through, and it's not being perfect in any one of these areas right now. It's to just go through and put a couple words in each section so you get the flow of how to do this. Because this is something that you need to do routinely. You need to know this kind of framework inside and out to be successful. What are a couple of key opportunities that you see? Maybe a new customer that you're thinking about. Maybe a new a new office that you're considering. Maybe that new fellow who's come to work for you recently, or gal, who's doing really, really well. Maybe you have some potential there. The person doesn't need a lot of money. See, you don't necessarily want somebody, it'd be nice to cash out, okay? Cashing out is always nice. But when you cash out, you're only gonna get a portion of what you might otherwise gain. As if you work with an employee, you work with a family member, you work with someone who could never have afforded to buy this business. You give them the opportunity, you mentor them, you help them to be successful and grow. And you'll make more money than you ever would if you sell to a stranger. What are some risks that you're considering? Maybe it's competitive risk, maybe it's governmental changes, maybe it's the marketplace in general. I'll pause for a moment here while you just write a couple of words, and when I see the eyes come up, then we'll move on.
John, how would you characterize a threat?
Okay, well, there's weaknesses and threats. We're going to get into the SWOT. And the weaknesses are flaws in your system, are lacking in talent, skill, resources, abilities, something, there's the weaknesses, and then the threats are something coming in from left field that's going to leverage that weakness that you have and throw you into calamity. So a threat is something that can put you out of business or take away a big portion of your market share.
So would a threat be more external and a weakness more internal?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Strengths and weaknesses are internal. Opportunities and threats are external. Good point. Let's move to page 2. Competitive analysis. Jot down the names of a couple of competitors. It may be local, it may be regional, it could be global. Everyone's got competitors. Who are yours? And below it, how do you rank online, on Google, on Yelp, on all of those different rankings? Maybe for your industry as well as general ones. How do you rank? And how do your competitors rank? How many reviews do you have? Generating reviews is a tough subject. We've had speakers who've talked about that. And then this is the strategic framework, which is the vision, the mission, the purpose, and the values. Write a word or two. Just something, this is just a springboard for you to practice with now. Because one of the things is we say, oh, I can't do that, this takes too long. You can do this in 30 minutes to just get a springboard and then take another shot at it in a week. And the word processor, you can go back to it over and over and make it better and better. So what is your vision, your mission, your purpose, and your values? Start with your values. What are your values? And then why are you doing this? Because it's out of your values and your purpose you can get more clear upon your vision and your mission. The vision and the mission are the most difficult things to really nail down and to nail them short and succinct. Like Nike, just do it. And FedEx, get it there. Get it there. Whatever it takes. Everybody in the company knows the vision and the mission. Get it there. And then at the bottom of page 2 is the analysis, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and trends. The trends at the bottom is, what are those global and economic, national, regional events that are much bigger than you and your local business that are influencing your business? What are the trends that you could ride on a trend, and by using the opportunities and your strengths and the trends, avoid the weakness, avoid the threats, and thereby generally and gradually reduce your weaknesses one by one. Hire that person to fill that spot that you have a weakness in. Start getting coaching. Get part-time consulting on that one weakness to drill down and gain expertise, so that weakness becomes less and less, which will reduce your threats. Let's move to page 3. The strategic kernel. Give me a few words. What is the diagnosis of your business? It could include your personal. How old are you? Are you healthy? What is your circumstance? What is that diagnosis that will nail it? That your partner who you live with knows. They can put, in fact, they repeat it to you repeatedly. Ask him or her. They can write it very short for you. They also know the guiding principle because they've been telling you for years. If only you do this, don't you see? And then what are the step-by-step, the things that he or she is telling you every week? First do this, then do that. And then the proximate objectives. What are those little baby steps? The proximate objectives are just the little 1, 2, 3. How do you get to coherent action number 1? The proximate objectives. You do the little 1, 2, 3, and you're at coherent action number 1. Then you can replicate that over and over. A couple of words. What's your strategic plan for 2015? Just a couple words. I'm going to open a new office. I'm hiring a new CFO. I'm taking a vacation and figuring this whole thing out. There you go. We should all go with Sue.
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. I'm gonna get a bigger house. When do we pack?
That's okay, we've got her phone number.
See you in Palm Springs. Come on down.
Okay, from your strategic idea, your plan for the year, then you go into the quarter. What are those significant things for each of the next 4 quarters? Just a word or two. What are you doing this quarter? What's the main thing you want to accomplish and get done now, between now and March 30th, then before June 30th, then September 30th? Okay, let's turn to page 4. Is your market plan? Yeah, there's a lot of market plan. You start with, what's my ideal customer? Write and make it a rifle shot. This is not a time for a shotgun. This is a rifle shot. She's 29 years old. She has 2 children. She's college educated. She drives a Toyota, and she works out at the YMCA.
I'm not too sure the wife would be happy if I went that.
Check out and write down what is your ideal rifle shot. Rifle shot. And then you mark it to that rifle shot and you get all the rest. And what are you doing with social media? What's your website? Are you doing any promotions and events this year? Speaking events just like this. Are you scheduled to speak here? I hope so. Public relations. What's going on in terms of you doing some kind of contribution? Yesterday, I was able to submit, Patrick submitted for me, and I achieved DTM, Distinguished Toastmaster.
All right. Yay, good.
I've been a member for 7 years, I think.
Well, good for you, son.
been,
Good for you. Excellent.
It's been fun, though. It's really fun. Okay, advertising. What are you doing in advertising? Advertising isn't the big deal that it used to be. And then what is the professional association that you belong to? It's crucial that you participate in professional ongoing education and that you recognize the profession as a profession and you associate with other professionals. Yes, like Toastmasters. All right, now let's turn to the most fun part. I've been waiting to get to this part. Let's talk about the money. You've got to have a budget. You start with a blank sheet of paper, write down what's your mortgage payment or your rent payment, what's your insurance on the house, what's your insurance on the car. You start with the fundamentals. You do, on the top, you do those things that are less discretionary and typically fixed. Then you draw a line and you subtotal that. This is your personal budget. Then you write down those things that are essential but more discretionary. Like, you know, you could spend $200 at the grocery store or you could spend $125. You've got some discretion there. How many times are you going to go out to the restaurants? You know, what kind of continuing education are you spending or are you going to schedule that? So you work your way down to the things that are more discretionary at the bottom. So you know exactly what your nut is that you've got to crack month after month after month. And you make sure you always have that and you build savings into the program right from the beginning. Because if you're broke on 100%, you're going to be just as broke on 90%. So you might as well be putting a few dollars away so that you gradually build some reserve. Out of that, you then start looking at your business. And we have spreadsheets. You know, it's hard to write all your numbers in here, but this is for demonstration purposes. You look at what your business was 3 years ago, 2 years ago, last year, and what do you predict it's going to be this year? Then you look at last year versus this year. You do last year by quarter and by half, and then you do predictions based upon what you see about last year by quarter. You project what this year is going to be by quarter, because you've got the annual at the top, and then you've got the quarterly in the middle. Next page, last page.
So John, now are you saying that if my eyes are already crossing, then you would be the guy to call for that sort of help?
Yes, I can keep the conversation going. When your eyes glaze over, you know, we can take a break and then we can do it again.
Okay.
Yep. The next piece on the last page is your best case scenario for this year and your worst case scenario. Typically, if you need a place to start, you can go with 10% over for your best case over your probable. The bottom of page 5 is your probable. The top of page 6 is your best case, like 10% over, 15% over, and then your worst case. Sometimes that could be 20% under your probable, or 10% under. But you just pick something, and then you've got a range between your best and your worst and your probable, and then you're like, oh yeah, I can see how this is going to work. And you put it in a spreadsheet. We've got those spreadsheets where you put next to it what the actual is, and then you see what the variance is. And when you see what the variance is, like in January with one of my clients, he estimated at first, last year he did $78,000 in January, and he said, I'm going to do great this year, $95,000 in January. He did $117,000. We brought up his February estimates, which we had projected at $95,000 also. We brought them up quite a bit. And we're looking at the third month, March, and we're adjusting out into the second quarter now. We have him projected out with cash flow and projections and scenario planning, good, best, worst, for the rest of the year. He's opening several new locations this year. I'm open for questions. Yes?
My question has to do with intellectual property, and that's almost impossible to factor in. How do you deal with people who have intellectual property, like an author? I mean, do you just go on book sales or on actual value? Yeah, the value of intellectual property and the potential for intellectual property. I find that really difficult to estimate.
Would you summarize the question, John?
I'm
Yes.
talking about intellectual
Yeah,
property.
I
Yes.
understand. I just
Okay, I'm
wanted
gonna
to summarize the
the
question.
question, to make sure that I get it.
Yeah.
Okay, with intellectual property, it's difficult to predict and to establish what the future value, what the present value and what the future value might be. Is that correct? Well, the first thing to do is to go back and look at whatever history you do have. And everyone's got some history, you know? Even when you launch immediately, you can begin with very low estimates. So I would say you begin with low estimates. You build your budgets on low estimates, and then you shoot for the moon with your marketing and your promotion. And you tweak your marketing and promotion budget that you can afford to do it with your current budget, and that you don't break the bank trying to go up. So I would say, you know, you can do it in several ways. One is the number of issues, the number of either digital downloads or printed copies you expect to sell for the year, based upon the other pieces that you've produced and how you're going to do things differently, and set a target. Because when you set the target, you then have to immediately say, what are you going to do that is going to help you to overcome the last one, not getting past 500 or 5,000 copies. In business books, you know, you're lucky if you sell 1,000 business books, or 5,000 to be sure. So it's better, and the other thing is, when you're an author, it's not like you can write one book and then, oh, wow, I did it. No, when you start writing, you go into the writing business. And when you launch a book, you better have the second one ready in the chute for editing, and the third one as a concept that you're developing. Yes, next question. Yes.
I just want to say, working with John, and I've been on a couple conference calls with him, I really appreciate your expertise, and I would not just hire you for exit planning. I would hire John to look at your business and to put it together completely, and to put your team together so at any given point you could exit. And I think that's what happens. People might have a CPA, they might have a piece here, because if all of a sudden something happens in your business or your health and you have to sell your business, it is extremely stressful on all parties if you have to have someone come in from the outside and try to put this together in 2 months or 3 months. I mean, this takes 6 or 7, 8 months or a year to put some of these things together to sell your business. And it is very stressful. I see that all the time in real estate, when people are in commercial real estate, when they're selling their businesses. They have no clue. Or the mom and pop store or business that they've had it written on a, napkin, and they have the CPA who is Uncle George. And so I think it's really important. I appreciate John and his team, or whoever your team is, but John can come in and really pull it together for you. So I highly recommend him.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
So I just also want to say, I've engaged and paid John for consulting on my business. It was pre-exit strategy, and he's very patient and detail-oriented, and it has been a really good working relationship. So I want to put that in there too.
Excellent information. And so this is, I think, appropriate if you are